What's up, everybody? It's Trekking Racing. Been getting such a positive response from everyone from filming quicker videos. I'm actually quite impressed. It was only a week between my two videos, and I've seen an instant kind of boost in response. A lot of comments, a lot of likes, a lot of follows, which, I don't do it for that, but at the same time, it also possibly means that I did something right. And the follow-up videos and me getting more involved with these videos is actually what people would like to see, which is fantastic. I mean, that's what I want too. It's just sometimes time can be very restrictive of that, but I'm really desperately trying to get these videos in when I have the time and I have the ability to do so. So let's get into it, right? No more engine, right? is300 engine, the 2JZ GE is now over here. And now there's a big empty space over here. Pulling out the engine really wasn't that difficult in regards to pulling out any other engine that I've done in the past. I had some notes written down to kind of go over some of the hard spots of taking the engine out and stuff, but really there wasn't any huge difficulties in doing so, right? I mean, if you disconnect all of your cables, you disconnect all your lines, all your fittings, you disconnect the exhaust, you make sure to get all the transmission stuff off, then really you're going to be just fine. But I will say that there was one or two things that got me, and maybe I just wasn't thinking right, but I'd like to share them with you just in case they help you out as well. One of the big ones that actually got me was the transmission shifter bracket. Let's see if I've got one around here that I can show. Oh, yeah. Right here. So this guy right here, I know, probably stupid me, but I completely forgot about it. So when I started trying to pull this bad boy out, she was trying to stay held on. And it seemed a little awkward at first. I couldn't find anything around the engine that was holding it up because there wasn't anything around the engine holding it up. And it ended up being that. So that's definitely one of those things. Make sure you get that automatic shifter bracket. Obviously, if it's a manual, you'd already have something that you would need to take off anyway and pull through that tunnel. But with the automatic, you simply have to take that off. Another thing that was a little bit difficult, I wouldn't say that I forgot it, but it was just a pain in the butt, was all of these. These power cords or data cords, whatever, that are under the car were very difficult to pull off inside of that tunnel. So, hey, there was some fun stuff, but if you've ever pulled an engine before, this is not anything special. Lexus does a fairly good job of keeping most things relatively the same and making it fairly easy to pull out. I think that was pretty much about it. So let's talk about some things that maybe I did wrong. So one of them, if you haven't already noticed, is I mashed the heck out of these pipes right here, and I was just an idiot and being rushed and, tried the old clamp over hose technique and kind of, to get that thing off of there. But obviously I did more damage than good. I'll probably have to find something conical shaped, kind of press it up in there to bring that form to, back in. I considered doing AN lines for these heater hoses as well, but I just don't think it's going to be worth the trouble for it. I think I'm just going to fix them and use regular hoses for that and not make a big deal out of it. But, I mean, exciting progress, right? I took everything out. I did pressure wash everything. Otherwise, you would know that most of these things down here would just be caked with blackness. I know mine was. Just had grime, dirt all over everything, and the pressure wash did a great job of taking all that off. I'm not really sure if I'm going to put down some paint or what. Probably not. I'll probably just redo the heat barrier that was back here and some gold heat barrier, just to make sure that I still have a good solid firewall and kind of protect that heat from getting in the car. But otherwise, I think I'm going to leave it as is. I mean, there might be some spots that have a little bit of rust that I might just touch up just to prevent any additional rust forming. I'm also going to try to clean up some of these things. I've seen some people kind of moving these different parts around, putting them in different spaces to kind of make things a little bit cleaner up here. I think I'm going to do some of that as well, just to kind of smooth out the surface and make the engine bay a little bit better. I'm going to go ahead and play the pull-out video for you guys. I think it was a pretty fun time-lapse video that my wife ended up doing without me knowing it, showing us struggling trying to get this bad boy out of here. And I say struggling, mainly because I stupidly left the front crash bar on before starting to pull out the transmission. So you'll see me having to spend some time, pulling those off and getting that out of the way. But otherwise, you just really want to strip off the entire front end. It makes it so much easier to pull out the engine. Another thing that you'll notice inside of the video is that I had multiple straps on the engine. Now, I'm not going to say whether this is right, wrong, or indifferent, because I'm sure safety and people will go different ways. But I had some really long 2-inch thick ratchet straps that were going over my hoist in a few different ways. And the reason for that is that I found that you had to get a pretty good angle on the engine and the transmission to be able to bring it out of here, right? Because you're kind of like swooping it up and out. So having 2 sets of attachment points on the engine hoist allowed me to kind of like ratchet strap up one side, let the other side down, and kind of be able to swoop it out a lot easier. That might be very obvious to some people, but if you haven't done the job before, then maybe it wouldn't be super obvious. And the points on the is300 engine, the 2JZ GE, really don't make it easy to do that. My solution for that, and again, I'm not saying that it's right or wrong, I'm just saying that it did it, and it ended up working out just fine, was hooking one of the straps into the power steering pulley right here. There's plenty holding it in. The bolts are really strong. The pulley's really strong. I didn't even scuff it when I did it. I'm sure some people will freak out and be like, that's a horrible way to do it. Sure, but it worked for me. So I had a 2-strap system, one to the back lift point, which I think is over here, and then the other one over here, and just kind of, adjusted it as I needed to get it out. So definitely took a little bit of time, as you'll see in even the time-lapse video, and I still had everything disconnected at that point, other than that front crash bar, but it was pretty funny. So I'll show you that video. We'll check it out. So the 2J came out without an issue. As you can see with the video, there was just a few small little hiccups, and fixed it along the way. No problem. Here it rests in the dark portion of the garage, looking a lot dingier than she did when she was actually in the car. This motor was high mileage. I would have had to put probably equal amount of money into rebuilding it, to put it into a good position to actually beat it up as a daily driver and not have to worry about it. So essentially, I wanted to put this money into something special, which is why I ended up going with the 3UZ. It's not saying that the 2JZ isn't a wonderful motor, but I would have had to have put so much money into turbocharging it alone to get it to where that I want to be that it just made sense to go with the 3UZ. So, a few things I guess to talk about preparation for this motor going in. Right now you're seeing it with some, I say junk valve covers on there, but the valve covers I'm not using. So This is your typical 3UZ valve cover without the filler neck. And the filler neck is super long. Some people say that it has conflict with the hood. Some people say it doesn't. Either way, I didn't like the aesthetics of the super long filler neck. It was really there for no reason. So, so the other valve cover is off getting powder coated right now by Best Damn Powder Coating in Indian Trail here. Fantastic local owned company by some great car enthusiasts. So shout out to them. We'll definitely have some more information about them in the future once we get the powder coated parts back. Definitely can't wait to see those and see what they turn into. And we'll talk into more of that later. So anyway, what I've done is that I've had a local company, Vic's Auto Body, weld on AN bungs to my vacuum lines on the valve cover. So the valve cover with the shortened neck, which is a 1UZ valve cover on this right side, is off getting powder coated, has already had the bung welded, and I'm using that short neck. On this other side, I was able to use the SE430 3UZ valve cover for this side. So right now, again, I've just got these valve covers just sitting in here, making sure that I don't collect dust inside of the motor. But again, this is broken off on the 3UZ one that's being powder coated, and I had an AN bung welded onto that as well. So to kind of get into that, the way that I'm approaching this, even though it's a daily driver, family car, whatever I want to call it, to be able to get to work on it, is essentially like a pro stock class. So I'm going to be keeping the motor essentially intact for right now. The future plans will be a pretty big motor build for it. But for right now, keep it intact and basically make it as easy as possible to pull in and out and make it as reliable as possible using AN lines, fittings, and kind of sprucing that all up. So, I mean, you'll already see some traces of that. Like I've got an AN power steering line, AN power steering fittings. And again, the valve cover having the AN pieces on it as well. I'm considering doing AN bungs. I think they're AN 20 for the radiator coolant hoses. But I haven't decided on if I'm going to invest in a all aluminum radiator yet, because essentially that's another $400 of investment that, even though I keep going crazy adding stuff to this build, I'm really trying not to go too crazy with it. So same thing with our back heater hoses. I'm leaving those as they are right now. You know, heater hoses are easy enough to connect. They're easy enough to see if there's an issue with it. It's easy enough to address. But sure, in the future, I'd like to do AN bungs for those too. One special thing to notate about this build, even though I'm using a 3UZ and even though I'm using the A650E, that to maintain E-shift, I've had to utilize a 1UZ harness and 1UZ ECU, which comes with its pluses and its minuses, and we can get into those in the future videos. But essentially what that means is that I've had to utilize 1UZ sensors with my 1UZ harness that I'm having custom made for the 3UZ and the is300 swap. Harness is being made locally for me by a gentleman who works with Soho Performance, and that's been a really good deal because that's who's actually getting the 2JZ. But yeah, so again, upgrading the wiring harness, upgrading all of the lines, making sure all the fittings are brand new and fantastic, are just going to make sure that I have absolutely no problems running this car on a daily basis, or even if I did, heaven forbid, say, want to put it out on the track or do some harder driving, I'm going to be in good shape. Some of the other things I've added is, you'll see here a derail or Dural cooler and fan setup. I mean, these things are awesome. I love the fact that it comes with a shroud. The shroud makes it really easy to kind of bend and conform and make to different mounting locations. And again, this is just another part of me trying to make the system more fall-proof. This will go for the automatic cooler, seeing how I'm beefing up the automatic transmission. Again, kind of more to talk about in a future video. I want all the lines to be upgraded as well. I've got the transmission over here. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it. This garage just has so much stuff in it. But the lines have already been, there you go, AN bungs on both of those sides. So I'll be able to run those lines up, run it to the cooler, run it back, and it'll just be another additional thing to keep the transmission safer, and also make sure that all of the lines are updated lines with zero issues. So it's all about just getting the best, most reliable daily driver out of a swapped vehicle using a used engine and a really, really beat up chassis. So, that's a hard thing to obtain, but I'm doing my best to go about that. So I've got lots of future videos of getting this stuff together. As with most of my videos, I'm not extremely detailed, and I apologize for that. I know a lot of people want me to show every little bolt being removed and every little turn of the wrench. I just don't have time for that in my normal life. So I try to give some good abbreviated stories, cliff notes on the things that I'm doing to, one, either pique your interest and know, oh, hey, you can use a 1UZ harness on 3UZ to be able to use E-Shift. Or, you can replace all of these lines with AN fittings and that sort of thing. Some people know that stuff. Some people don't. I love to pique the interest to give you the ability to do them yourselves. If you got a local welder or you do welding yourself, getting AN bungs added to all this stuff is extremely easy to do. It's not difficult. It's definitely inside of the range of an average garage builder, like I'm, in this situation here, right? It's just me, and I barely know what I'm doing, but yet I still make things work. So these things are obtainable for sure. You've just got to kind of know what you're looking for and what direction to go. So those are the things that I try to help with. If you have a specific question, just throw it up in a comment or send me a message on Instagram at Tracking Racing, those sort of things. And you'll know that I respond to those messages as soon as possible, and I definitely give as much information as I possibly can, the information that I have. If it wasn't for people in front of me telling me how to do a lot of these things, I wouldn't know how to do them either. So it's just research, and then, taking a chance and going from there. So, a lot of other things that I've done to the engine in preparation to put it in, and that was timing belt, water pump. I've replaced majority of the gaskets. Some things I'm leaving because I am going to do a full motor build in the future. So, I want to make sure that I've got some gaskets for that. But I've even started working on some headers. So these are just some LS400 headers, OBX headers that I'm customizing for this purpose. So I've got the flanges cut off. I'm going to be putting some Treadstone Performance V-band clamps on there. I've got some Flowmaster high flow cats that are going on here, and some 2.5-inch piping that I'm going to X-pipe and bring out the side. But as we all know, there's always some problems with the steering shaft. So, I have done some modifications to the steering shaft here. You can see that I've kind of soothed it all out, kind of smoothed it up. Not only that, but I also put in that little button head screw. You can find that information on most of the swap forums that are on Facebook. Maybe if I can think of it smart enough, I'll put it in the description. If not, just ask me for it and I'll find it for you. But smooth out that area, but I'm still going to have to do some massaging of these pipes, and more than likely I'm not going to beat on them. Most likely I'm actually going to cut here and extend all the runners and do things properly. Luckily the other side doesn't need any help. It is good as is. So, once I get to that point, it's going to be very exciting to get the exhaust laid out. I do already have an intake in works, but I kind of don't want to show you that yet. Still want to get some more work done on it before I kind of start to show you what my plans are. But so things are moving along. Sensors replaced, some of the wiring harness is done. Working on painting some parts like the fuel rail here. First time ever doing an etched paint job, and I think it turned out pretty cool. So the basic theme is going to be a frosty bronze, very much like the OEM pewter that you see in many is300s, and like I have inside of mine, if you can see that there. So frosty bronze for the valve covers, for the timing covers, and for the lower and upper intake manifold, and then everything else is going to be nice and black. Black with a little etched out look, so that'll be pretty cool. But all the lines and everything are going to be nice and black. Really, it's going to be to try to hide as much as possible, look very OEM, look slick, but also have a little bit of pop. The frosty bronze is not something that I would normally jump to, But I'm very excited about running some hexaform wheels from Koenig, and they've got this beautiful kind of frosty bronze look to them. So it's really all in preparation for those wheels. Some would say I'm designing quite a lot around them, but I love Koenig wheels. I love the fact that they've been involved with the MR2 build, and I definitely want them involved in the is300 build, and that those hexaform wheels are just going to look amazing. Plus, if you remember the original HKS Altezza Time Attack car, it did have goldish kind of theme to it, goldish wheels, and that sort of thing. And I am, although not following that to a T, I'm definitely doing something very similar. So yeah, progress on the engine bay, pulling things out, getting things converted over to AN fittings. Progress on the engine, getting things updated, new gaskets and fittings, getting things coated and prepared. And then, of course, a nice long line of fluids, right? Toyota fluids, Mobil 1, Motul, K&N doesn't get any better than that. So, there's still lots to be done, but at the same time, lots has been done. And I'm very, very excited. Now, mind you, I did kind of make some lofty predictions of getting this swap done in a pretty timely manner, in which I still plan to, but I've also added so much to the build. I'm going to do a coilover setup because these coilovers are about $200 each, and they're pretty junky. I'm also replacing every single little bit of steering arms in the front because I was getting some crazy noises and some weird movement. So Figs Engineering, man, if you want some OEM stuff with some new bushings, they've got everything that you could possibly need. So I'm replacing everything with Figs. So, upgrading the brake lines, even OEM brake lines, ABS lines. So, it's much more than a swap. It's definitely turned into a bit of a build. I'll admit that. I can't leave things alone. But at the same time, I think it's going to be amazing. I think with the brake lines, new suspension components, new coilovers, new engine, new ECU, the new steering wheel with the paddle shifters, all of these things are just going to make this such a unique new build. It's not going to be the same car that it was before. I mean, I know that's obvious, but at the same time, it's going to be something completely different, very unique, but the hope is solid. Something that's going to make sure that I don't get stranded somewhere, and that it performs as a family car, being a safe vehicle to transport to and from with family, and also have a blast. So again, as always, follow on Tracking Racing for some more quicker updates. There's a lot that I try to do inside of these videos when I have the ability, so I just kind of cram it all in. But as usual, if you want me to kind of focus on something or get specific with something, other than just talking my head off and walking around the garage, then I'm happy to do that. But for right now, that's kind of the best that I've got with the time that I've got. And hopefully, again, it kind of spurs some interest. Maybe makes you get out there and get some work done on your build. Maybe even makes you consider a different build that you weren't considering, like an MR2 or an is300. Whatever it is, I'm glad that you guys enjoy it. I'm glad that I've had the time to film a little bit more lately. And as usual, much love to everybody. Remember, everybody's going through something out there. So try to be kind, spread the kindness. There's no need to troll. It's just a stupid word. It's a stupid thing to do. It's bullying at best. So be kind to everybody out there. Have fun. Spend time on your build. Don't let it stress you out. Work hard, work hard, work hard.